So typically what happens after an interview is the interviewer leaves the room and they go back to their desk, and you're probably on your way home. Now when they get back to their desk, person next to them or their colleague probably says, oh, how was that interview? How did it go? At that point, you want to leave such a good impression that they say, that person. This video is kindly being sponsored by Toggl. Hit the link in the video description below to get 1 month of Toggl for free. What is going on YouTube? Welcome back to the channel. Let's get straight into it. So we all know that if you want to secure an offer at an investment bank, you need a solid CV or resume, you need a solid cover letter, you need good interview preparation and practice, right? But even if you have all these things, a lot of firms can still reject you, and that can be the most frustrating thing ever. And so today I'm going to tell you exactly what you need to do in order to stop getting rejected by investment banks after they've interviewed you. Alright, first and foremost, the reason why you're getting rejected is because you don't come across as a people person. Now, I'm not saying you need to be extremely extroverted. All of us are not extroverts. A lot of us are introverts, and that's completely fine. But being a people person means you are okay with meeting new people. You're comfortable having conversations and building relationships, because all these things come into play whether you are client facing or not. You need to build relationships in order to make sure you work with other teams, get work done, help others, get things out to clients, climb the corporate ladder, whatever it may be. Being a people person helps you navigate the world of work. And so if you come across as extremely introverted, or you keep to yourself, or you're not comfortable building relationships or talking to others in an interview, for example, then it's not going to do you well, and it's likely going to prevent you from moving forward onto the next stage. Even, for example, if you're applying for a role that doesn't require you to work with others, if it's a solo kind of position where you're just doing your own thing, or not a client facing position, it's still important to have people skills, because these things include communication skills, interpersonal skills, how you build relationships with your manager and your colleagues senior to you. All these things are important, and so it's important to display your people skills in an interview. Alright, next, your responses to questions are too generic. Now, oftentimes you might have done a great application, you get to the interview, and then every question you get asked, specifically, for example, the ones that are specific to the organization. Why do you want to work for this company? Why do you want to work in this division? What interests you about this industry? Why do you want to work in investment banking instead of in asset management or sales and trading, vice versa? Your answers to these questions are so generic that anyone can use them, and if that's the case, then it doesn't really make you stand out. They're not good answers. A good answer for these questions would be very, very specific to you as an individual, and you kind of paint that picture, paint a story as to why you have ended up in that seat. So the more specific your responses are to each interview question, the better. Just ask yourself, can this response that I'm giving be applied by the next candidate? If it can, then it's a generic standard response. If it can't, because there's something unique, there's a unique element about it that ties specifically to you, then it's a good response that isn't considered generic. When you're preparing for interview questions, really dig deep into the reasoning behind your motivation for applying for the role, behind your motivation for choosing this given industry, firm, division, role, etc., and really think about your responses, and don't ever give like a half-hearted response. Alright, the next reason why interviewers are rejecting you after they meet you is because you don't have any opinions. It's important for you to be opinionated and generate your own views and opinions, because investment banks want employees who can think for themselves, as opposed to just following the herd and just agreeing with what everyone else or the rest of the group is saying or thinking. This is especially important for front office roles, whether it's on the trading floor in markets or in corporate finance or in asset management, because a lot of the work is tied to what's going on in the global markets, what's going on in the geopolitical landscape, etc., etc. And for that reason, it's important that you come across well versed, well informed, and well read on such topics. For example, you don't want to just know what's going on in the world of, NFTs and technology companies or acquisitions. You want to have an opinion, or a long-term view on what you think, or how you think NFTs are going to perform over the next 5 or 10 years. Is it a hype, or do you think actually this is some new concept that is going to take the market by storm, and it's going to grow and have a huge impact on XYZ industries and sectors over the next 5 or 10 years? Now, the reason why opinions and viewpoints are important is because they spark conversations. If you just say, yeah, I read something about this, blah, 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 and that's it, you just state what you read, that's boring. If you say, I read something about XYZ, but my thoughts are ABC, and then you can say, what are your thoughts on this? And then you spark a conversation. That's a good way to assess if your interview is going well, if you can have a conversation with the person. If you're just stating facts, that's boring. Have an opinion, have a viewpoint, build on that spark to make a conversation out of nothing. Simple. Another simple way to do this is to get more involved in the markets. If you're interested in trading, for example, a tool you can use is Toggle, who are also sponsoring this video, to carry out research and analysis on any of the sectors or markets or products that you might be interested in investing in. Before we move on to why it can be a double-edged sword to have lots to talk about on your CV, here's a bit more on Toggle and how you can get 1 month of Toggle for free. Toggle is a platform for both institutional and retail investors, and it leverages AI, artificial intelligence, to help you get unique insights to allow you to invest better. Toggle helps active investors, both professional and retail. As long as a user actively follows markets and invests semi-regularly, there is a good chance they'll love the platform. Toggle looks at billions of data points across millions of time series each and every day. Toggle then takes the interesting data, the assets that are related to it, identifies prior times through history that milestones had been seen, and does all of the statistical analysis to identify if the assets have had a consistent response. For example, did they usually go up or did they go down? If that insight meets a certain threshold of statistical robustness, then it's considered an actionable insight. Actionable insights are not trading signals. They're intended to help investors get a sense of, all else being equal, is the security poised to go up or down given the current data landscape. Toggle looks at many lenses, including momentum, valuation, macroeconomics, etc. Another feature of Toggle is News Insights. This uses AI, artificial intelligence, to help you decide what pieces of financial news are favorable or unfavorable for a particular stock based on its historical data. Now, for those of you interested in investing in the financial markets, whether you do it professionally or for an institution, or if you're a retail investor and you do it as a hobby, definitely do check out Toggle. There's lots of that you can find out on their website. Institutional focused investors, they've got Toggle Pro. And for those of you who are retail investors and who might invest, as a hobby, they've got Toggle Copilot. So hit the link in the video description below and you can find out more about them. Definitely do check them out. Now let's get back to the video. So having lots to talk about on your CV is always recommended, and it's always a good thing, right? After all, it's better to have more on your CV to talk about than nothing on your CV to talk about. However, be careful what you put on your CV and be extremely selective of the things that you put on your CV. Now, the main reason for this is if you put too much on your CV, too many different interests, too many different extracurricular activities, then it can come across a bit scattered and it can kind of look like you don't know what you want to do, which is fine, but it's not as focused as maybe a candidate whose CV is purely focused on experience related to the role you're applying to. It's important to know what you want to do to a certain extent, but be careful not to confuse the reader of your CV, or the interviewer in this case, by having so much random stuff on your CV that it shows them or gives the impression that you're a bit confused and scattered. Fifth reason why you are getting rejected after being interviewed by investment banks, and something that really matters in order to secure an offer from an investment bank, is you don't stand out enough. You need to stand out compared to all the other candidates. After all, if 1,000 people are applying for a role that you're interviewing for and only one person is going to get the role, that person needs to stand out for the right reasons. So you're not doing enough in the interview to stand out and leave an impression on the interviewer after they leave that meeting. So typically what happens after an interview is the interviewer leaves the room and they go back to their desk, and you're probably on your way home. Now, when they get back to their desk, person next to them or their colleague probably says, "Oh, how was that interview? How did it go?" At that point, you want to leave such a good impression that they say, "That person that I just saw, whoever their name is, was extremely impressive. Like, I think they're a front runner for this interview, for this seat. They performed really well in that interview, answered all the questions really good, had a good conversation, felt like a comfortable chat, blah, 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 blah." You want them to praise you to anyone they talk about because you smashed that interview and you left such a positive impression. Now, it's easy to say you want to stand out and you need to leave a positive impression, but how exactly do you do that? You do this by not only answering every single question thoughtfully and very well, but it's imperative to build a rapport with the person interviewing you. The more comfortable you can make them in that interview, the better it's going to be for you. So build rapport. Ask very good questions about themselves, about the firm, about the industry, about the markets, and make them feel comfortable in your presence. If I go to into an interview and I'm interviewing a candidate and then they make me feel super comfortable where I feel like this isn't even an interview no more, it's just a casual conversation, an informal conversation with a candidate. I feel comfortable with them, they feel comfortable with me, we're just having a nice little vibe, talking, I'm getting to know them, asking them all the relevant questions, they're asking it very well, and I leave thinking that was a good conversation, this person is suitable for the role, they seem cool, they seem like they'll fit in with the team, cultural fit is very important as well, and then I leave with a positive impression. What happens in between can vary, but you want to start off on a high. First impressions count a lot, and you want to end on a high because that's the last impression, that's the last thing you leave the interviewer with. Alright, last but not least, look and act the part. How you carry yourself is very important because that's how a lot of people will perceive you. But more importantly, when you first go into an interview, you don't want to look scruffy, you don't want your shirt collar to be unfolded or looking messy. If you're wearing a tie, you want it to be well done, you don't want to have a button loose, you don't want to, you know, just look scruffy. And the reason for that is, you know, even if it's a team that doesn't even face clients, you are representing your team, you're representing your manager. No manager is going to want to hire someone who looks scruffy because it makes the team look bad, it makes them look bad. Also very important to know, nobody cares about the brand or the designers that your clothes are from, and so what's more important is if it fits well and if it's nice and clean. So you want to wear a clean shirt, you want to wear a clean suit, it needs to be nice and pressed, but most importantly fit. Now fit is very important because if clothes fit you well, it will make you feel comfortable. If you feel comfortable, you feel more confident. If you feel more confident, naturally you carry yourself better and you're more likely to perform better in the interview. It just means there's one less thing to worry about in the interview. You don't want to be in an interview and think, oh shit, my shirt's dirty, are they looking at that mark on my shirt? Oh no, my blazer doesn't match my tie, is this tie too powerful? All these things, you don't want to think about them because when you're thinking about them, it's not going to let you perform to the best of your ability in the interview. And so get the basics right, get a nice fitted outfit, simple, dark colors tend to go well, don't wear black, wear navy with a white shirt or something like that. That always goes down well in the interview. Oftentimes some of the best candidates let themselves down because they overdid it in terms of dress code, they were too loud or they ended up too messy and it just didn't look presentable. So be presentable when you're going to an interview. You'll be surprised how many people get this one wrong, and it plays a big part. If you can't get yourself right for the interview in terms of presentability, how can the person take you to client meetings, for example? So treat it like a client meeting or a pitch or something like that. Let me know what you're struggling with down below in terms of securing offers, interviews, what you can't seem to get right. If you made it this far, smash the like button for the YouTube algorithm, check out some of these videos, and I will see you in the next video. Peace.